ingeniero estructural y profesor titular del Departamento de Ingeniería Estructural y Geotécnica de la Universidad La Sapienza de Roma. Cuenta con más de 25 años de experiencia en investigación y desarrollo de soluciones innovadoras para el diseño sísmico de estructuras de bajo daño en concreto y madera. Ha sido profesor en la Universidad de Canterbury en Nueva Zelanda y presidente de la Sociedad Neozelandesa de Ingeniería Sísmica. Es autor de más de 500 publicaciones científicas, titular de diversas patentes y ha participado activamente en la elaboración de normas y guías técnicas de diseño estructural a nivel internacional. Asimismo, fue reconocido como miembro de IPENS por su aporte a la aplicación de la tecnología de ingeniería en la comunidad y su innovación en el desarrollo de soluciones técnicas. Con una trayectoria que ha marcado la evolución del diseño sísmico a nivel mundial. Es un honor recibirlo. Les pido por favor que nos acompañen con un aplauso para el ingeniero Stefano Pampanin.
Muchas gracias, everyone. Grazie mille. I have two options. Either I will speak in Italian, quindi o parlo in italiano e voi cercate di capire lo spagnolo, or I will speak in broken English and you will be trying to understand the broken English becoming Spanish. Thank you very much for the translator. So, first of all, it's really a great pleasure and honor to be at this major event. I need to really give a big thanks to Jose Carlos Higel, and on behalf of the organization AGIES, the President Byron Pais, hopefully I pronounce it properly, and all the organization of the Chamber of Construction that's invited me here. In the exchange of email, I had one request. The request was, I hope that this will be a triggering point for Guatemala to be able to develop something new. Something that we have done. Let me try, hold on a second here. No, sorry. Why is it not going back? The battery. I want to go back and I want to zoom. Yeah. Can you zoom? Try, you try? Okay, got it. Thank you. So, if we, the final aim will be to really make something happening. Something happening as a major national plan. And what I'm here for is to exchange experiences. So I would like to give the experience of what we've done on the other side of the world, in New Zealand, where we prepared a national plan for seismic risk reduction, and what we've been doing the last 10 years in Italy to try to prepare a national plan for seismic and energy efficiency risk reduction. Some previous speakers already mentioned that. So by putting together two models from a completely different culture, New Zealand and Italy, from a completely different construction environment, I hope there will be some ideas of what we together can do at international level and we together can do for Guatemala. I have a lot of slides. I will start slowly and then I will start to put the second, third, seventh gear of a Ferrari machine and we are going to go fast. But the slides are going to be very simple. So no formulas. The point is, remind everyone that we have a number of pathologies. And it's important to communicate to the public using the medical engineering metaphor, the comparison. We are, as a medical doctor, we need to understand the problem, the pathologies. You are in one of the regions where basically you have everything. Volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, cyclones. In Italy we have volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, cyclones. We don't have, we don't have a lot of cyclones, but we are getting quite a severe weather conditions. So what are we doing with these pathologies? Well, we have to understand that, as already mentioned, is not in modern societies. 2025, obviously we need to save lives, but it's not enough. So the experience that we had in the latest earthquakes is that saving life is absolutely fundamental, but it's not sufficient. Because saving lives under major disaster will, on one hand, be the primary goal, but on the other, will not give to the society what we call resilience. In a nutshell, I went through the earthquake in New Zealand. I was a technical person, I was a father. And the worst case scenario is when you know what's happening and you can't do anything about it. So you're entering a building in an aftershock and you don't know if you're getting out of that. And people saying, why are you doing that? Because that's our job. But you have kids. Yeah, but that's my job. So once you go through an earthquake and you survive, as I was lucky to, then your brain is changing. And your brain is changing so much that you don't want anymore to talk to engineers only, architects only, constructors only, but you want to talk to the politicians. You want to talk to the decision makers. So, hands up, how many of you are engineers? Plenty. Hands up, how many of you are architects? Hands up, when I say engineers, is engineers, structural, geotechnical, mechanical, anything. How many of you are geologists? How many of you are contractor, construction environment, contractor? Producer, manufacturers, you're producing something. Okay, now we start talking, we are all players, same players. Now we're talking about who's taking decision. So, where is the mayor of Guatemala City? Oh, she left. Okay, sorry. The president of Guatemala? Not because of me, but because the event is so important. Is the president of Guatemala? He just left. Okay, so the civil protection, hold on, I got the card. The civil protection, I have it. She was very busy, which I understand. I said, we need to do something. So, to be honest, I'm very flattered to tell you about the experience, but if we are talking to each other, it's not going to change anything. So what is the game? The game is that you are going to talk to who you know, and you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. We have here Diego Dessi, say, who is he? I called the ambassador, saying, how comes that we did not invite the Italian embassy? So thank you, Diego, for representing the Italian embassy. We are hoping that the community, the population will know about what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is reduce the socio-economical impact. We want to reduce the victims, clearly. We want to reduce the injuries. We want to reduce the economical impact. We want to reduce, and I will show you what I'm referring to, we want to reduce the social-economical impact, which is ruining the life of many people. To give something, excuse me for the rhetoric, we have one life. And only one earthquake, which is not going to be spectrum compatible, is going to ruin our life. And the engineers will know about spectrum compatibility. Why an earthquake is not spectrum compatible? Because the single event will not spectrum compatible. So what are we going to do? We are going to do, and we are already doing it, diagnosis, understand the problem of a building in an old way. Now we are doing it a different way, but then we have to do a prognosis, which is basically the performance of the structure under an event. The prognosis for the structural engineers is the pushover, is the time history analysis. How is your structure behaving under an earthquake? But then, for decades, we stopped at looking at the problem. We look at the solutions, which is called the therapy. So, I'm just asking you a question. What is the therapy? The solution for seismic risk reduction that your country have developed? Nothing? Or you don't know? I don't want to have an answer. I will tell you what was the situation around the world. Typically there was no, or there's none, therapy for long term to make our buildings more, not only safer, but capable to withstand an earthquake and letting you live again. What I'm doing here is to explain that this is the old way. This is the new fancy digital twin, all the things that we're doing. The bottom line is, if you're doing analysis and you're not intervening with a therapy, which is the retrofitting of buildings, Forget about having digital twins. It's just a fashion. Okay, so we are focusing on earthquake here. And we are going to look at a common international problem. I would like to share the experience. And I'm just showing because some people will say, but where are you based now? It's not about me, it's about sharing experience. So the experience that I managed to gain is from Italy, first 28 years of my life. Pavia University, we're working with the Leaning Tower of Pisa, with Professor Mackin, working on masonry, working on concrete, Technical University of Milan, then flying to San Diego, where I met Nigel Priestley, who became my co-supervisor. Thank you to Professor Rolando Torres from Guatemala University, where are you? Because he gave a fantastic history of Park and Poli and Priestley and Hausner and so forth, and Bill Robinson and Ivan Skinner and James Kelly and the more you know. So I learned my roles over there, and I will share that experience of what I learned. Then we come back to Italy for another couple of years, and we are actually implementing things that we've been learning from Italy and then from San Diego. They're not happy because you want to travel the world. I ended up for 3 months for a visiting experience, a visiting lecturer in University of California, New Zealand, the Park and Poli in Priestley, the land in the middle of Down Under, where they developed the capacity design. So weak columns becoming strong columns, and the beams becoming weak beams. So you want to have the damage where you think it's supposed to be. And I spent 16 years over there. The 3 months became 16. Then I came back. Came back doing what? Came back to the capital of Italy, Rome, with the expectation that if you're in the capital, you will be able to speak to the decision makers, the ones that are going to make a change. No, you need to chase them. They're not coming to you. Why they should be coming to you? Because in New Zealand, the politicians were coming to university to learn what was happening, to prepare laws to make it happen. So another word. So I thought that Italy had developed the same culture in the meantime. Not exactly. So all of this, if you sum them up, is actually more than my age. Where is the trick? I spent probably 1.5 years of my life on a flight. You know the Tom Hanks movie where he's spending his month in an airport? That's me. So they were using Tom Hanks to take this Italian poor guy who was traveling hours and hours and days around the world. Okay, I want to go to the basic to think about the therapy. But reminding that so far we've been always looking at the pathology. But the pathology is not only the hazard. Is about the type of consequence of that. So it's already been said, hazard multiplied or combined with vulnerability of the building is the patient. An old patient will suffer a lot by a flu. The flu is not a big input, so a small earthquake can kill an old patient. Oh, interesting. So you're telling me the seismic risk for an old patient on old buildings means that even in a low seismic region, a not good, well-designed building, you can call it adobe construction. You can call it reinforced masonry buildings that we have in Italy all along the Apennines. Beautiful buildings made of stone. A small earthquake will kill people. So the idea that you need to be in a high seismic region like New Zealand, like Japan, like California, is just one. Okay. So let's try to explain to people. So again, please, could you refer to the mayor with the slides and saying, could you guys help in saying, we already know enough. This is coming from the hazard map of Guatemala. You know a lot, it's a high seismic region. We have been seeing all where it's coming from, and we know the vulnerability of buildings. These are the consequences of it. It's nothing new. But it's not because Guatemala people were doing wrongly the design. It's because the knowledge 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago was equally bad everywhere around the world. So the type of old buildings everywhere around the world were collapsing and would collapse if we do nothing, because that's what human being knew how to construct. Exposure has been mentioned. What does it mean, exposure? If the building collapses and there's no one inside, you're destroying the building, dot. But in reality, you're potentially killing people, you're potentially killing the production, so the contents, and you're potentially destroying the culture. So if you want to put money often it's difficult to put money on the culture, although you understand it is very precious. If you want to put money, you will understand that production is important, but typically the idea is it's a private issue. Production is private. So I will let the private company to make an insurance. If the production is not working, I, normal citizen, will pay more money. Your salary is not increasing, so you will be suffering the consequence of an earthquake far away in your same country because the whole country is becoming poor, more poor. Okay, what is the seismic risk profile of Guatemala? How many people knows about that? Hands up. Few. Imagine you are in the construction environment. Means that your friends, when you go for an aperitif on the Friday evening or Saturday evening, they would not know, they would not even care. Actually, they don't like to speak about things, bad things. So let's try to speak about good things. So I take the seismic hazard from global earthquake model. I put the building exposure value, billions of US dollar, and you can see Guatemala City where it is. And then we look at what is this annual expected loss, is the seismic bill. Do you have an energy bill? Every month you're spending for energy? And we are having a seismic bill, that's how I call it, that we, all together, citizens of the same country, are paying without knowing. If you knew how much millions of US dollar every year, by doing what? Nothing. You're doing nothing. There's a leakage of your money. So by doing nothing, you're keeping spending money. Did you know about that? No. Why? Because no one me explain that on television. You need to be fair enough before the most important sportive show that you have, explain, these are the civil protection uniforms, aren't they? You are from the civil protection? Voi siete della protezione civile? Gracias, muchas gracias por being here. So the idea is that if we knew, and we were telling to the citizen, that you're spending a lot of money, which means it's the reason for which your salary is so low and is not increasing, by doing nothing, then I would say, listen, how much does it cost to spend less? It's called therapy. If you tell me how much does it cost, depending on how much can I invest, I will try to reduce the annual seismic bill in Guatemala, in Italy, in New Zealand, but I need to show to people, otherwise they will not understand what we're doing. Just look at the number. Hazard level, capital stock, population, 14 million people out of 90% of the population in Guatemala is in a high seismic region. 90% of the population building stock is affected by socially and economically by whatever will happen. What about the other 10%? The other 10% people will be affected because if Guatemala City gets in trouble, the whole country will get in trouble because of numbers. Okay, so let me open up a big question. How do code design buildings? New. Today I designed a new building, and it was already mentioned by a speaker, so I'm very pleased that we are integrating. How is a new design building performing? We go to New Zealand. We go to New Zealand where we had a reality check. It's called Shaky Islands. We are really in a very high seismic region, but the city of Christchurch, where the University of Canterbury is, the city of Christchurch here, well, it's complicated, it's better to do by hand, basically had a peak ground acceleration, the intensity of the flu, intensity of the influenza, not too high, 0.22, written in the code. The earthquake came. The earthquake did not read the code. That's a citation from Tom Poley. The earthquake can't care the less about what you're writing on the code. But it's not because the code is wrong, it's because the code is doing something else. It's taking a long period of 100,000 years, and it's telling you that approximately the level of protection that you need to give is such and such. So what we got in New Zealand has been a breakthrough in the understanding of earthquake risk, because it's a very well-developed country. It's a country with awareness. It's a country with good construction. It's a recent country. You don't have buildings with thousands of years like you have in Italy. You have buildings with 150 years. So relatively new construction, well designed, well aware of people. A sequence of 2 years of aftershock, the city falls. There is a documentary in internet called The City That Falls. These are not clouds, it's actually the debris of an explosion within the feet of the central building district. You didn't know. You heard about that, but you didn't know. That was my city. I was living over there with 2 young kids. So we started looking at what we unfortunately have to expect, even in New Zealand, where capacity design were developed, where big columns and small beams to create a plastic hinge in the beams were developed, pre-capacity design, prior to the creation, the invention of capacity design, the buildings are equally vulnerable. Look at those buildings, small columns and big beams. How is the small columns, big beams going to fall? You don't need to be an engineer, you don't need to be an architect, you don't need to be a geologist, you don't need to be a contractor, you don't need to be an insurer, you can be a kid. You show to a kid at school, what is this type of palafitta? I don't know if palafitta is understandable. Palafitta, how is a palafitta failing? I'm asking at a primary school kids, and the best answer that I got is, as a palafitta. So of course it's going to break the legs. So do we need to be so smart to understand that such a building everywhere in the world will collapse? Come on. And that's where I get offended. I really get offended. As a human being, having gone through, survived the earthquake, seeing that many people did not survive, knowing exactly that this building will collapse and potentially will kill unless you are fortunate enough not to be in the building, it's just incredible that humans are not protecting themselves. Incredible. I keep going. That's another building, much older, much more recent. Mid-1980s, CTV buildings. These 2 buildings had 135 victims out of 185. So you would say Guatemala, 1976, had 20,000 more victims. Christchurch, 185. You're talking about few numbers. True. The construction was so well developed that I'm going to show you, like Back to the Future movie, I'm going to show you the future of every country in the world when an earthquake will hit a newly designed building. That's a newly designed building. Big columns, small beams. It's an emulative approach. It's like cast in situ concrete. But it can be cast in situ concrete, and this is a precast concrete with a wet connection. So it looks like a cast in situ. Why it's called emulative approach? Because it's going to emulate cast in situ concrete. What is the best design in the world? Now, I show you something that you've never seen probably. This is the best plastic hinge from real of a newly designed building. Newly designed because in 1980s, in New Zealand, people were already doing the detailing in the same way that in Italy we are doing in 2008, 2018. So in 1980, it was already a plastic hinge. Hands up, how many of you have ever seen real life a plastic hinge? The laboratory doesn't count. Okay, 2 out of 300. So once you see a plastic hinge, very similar to what you're saying, we were telling the same thing to the population. What a fantastic behavior. And the client was coming back saying, you must be joking. What do you mean, what a fantastic behavior? The building did exactly what it's supposed to do. I introduced these 2 pictures after we've been using the example for years, only when I was talking recently to the Senate and Parliament in Italy. So I was showing that as per a newly designed car, during a crash test, you are not expecting the car to survive, but you're expecting the car to save the pilot. That's how we design a building everywhere in the world. And the Parliament and Senator people said, we didn't know. Now that you do know, what are you going to do about that? I'm expecting tonight at television, after the TG1, the News 1, I'm going to expect you to say, oops, we didn't know, but now that we do know, repairing this building is extremely expensive, but we know how to model it. So from a scientific point of view, wow, look at that fence, isn't it? This is called digital twin. We were doing numerical modeling since ages. There was no need to call it digital twin. But the digital twin is cool, is fashion, right? So this is a digital twin of your building. This is exactly what is going to happen into your beautiful living room. So you're in the living room, and there's going to be something like that. And as a consequence of that, we actually don't really know how to repair it. And half of 1,800 buildings in the central building district in New Zealand were demolished. Because repairing those buildings, it's a disaster, it's very expensive. But while you're demolishing it, you're saying, but these are by code, this is new design by code. So there's something that we have been missing. The consequence of that, we do again. Just point your eyes to 2 or 3 buildings. Look at them, fix them, okay? 0.5% of the chance that they're not there anymore. This was the deconstruction that you spend a lot of money for of an entire modern central building district city because of the earthquake. It's a huge, expensive solution, and that's the real city. When people, I was showing this picture from the flight, you see this sand, the sand was buildings, financial buildings, money, business, people, working, family, salary. It's actually about people, it's not about buildings, it's a city. So the whole city center was completely destroyed and is representing the future of what we are now designing using a code. Fantastic. I didn't know about that. So now that I know, I will start thinking about it, because in addition to 185 fatalities, the cost for the country was 40 billion New Zealand dollars. Let's say 1-to-1 with US dollar in terms of purchasing value. So the exchange rate is different, but basically it's like having a 40 billion New Zealand dollars. Now just to clarify, New Zealand has a population of 3 million people, 3.2. Now it's 4. So you're talking about a very tiny country. The percentage of that money versus the gross domestic product is 25%, humongous. New Zealand without a proper public/private insurance scheme, a hybrid public-private, I was paying for my house 50 New Zealand dollars, 50 US dollar. And what I was getting back with a leverage scheme, I was getting back a completely new house. How can you make 50 New Zealand dollars becoming 500,000? It's called leverage. It's called alliance. So how can we rebuild a safer and resilient community? So what happened in Christchurch is that after the earthquake, we started explaining to people the basics, as we already know. Unfortunately, we already know. So we go back to the Vision 2000. You already have seen these matrices. You know that this is everywhere in the world we are designing for small earthquake, small damage. Yellow, bigger earthquake, bigger damage. Red, life safety. Bigger earthquake by design, bigger damage. So what are the colors that I added? The color are what I added to explain to the New Zealand population what was the consequence. Those colors are called tag. After you're getting an inspection of the building, you get a tag. You get a paper. You are allowed in. You're not allowed in. Absolutely, you cannot touch this building or you have to demolish it. So people were very much understanding. And what are we designing for? We are designing for here, which is exactly what we saw. So we are designing for life safety, the consequence of which we did not understand it. We didn't know. After the Christchurch earthquake, which is now 15 years ago, we know that a full city will be destroyed because you're not able to repair it. And you know that. So imagine, I'm looking at the civil protection people. Tonight you're going to talk to your friends. They should not be technical people, your friends. And you're going to say, I'm designing an anti-seismic building, earthquake-resistant buildings. And they would be thinking that is this one here, possibly in between here. They would never guess that your building is that one. They would never guess. But as soon as you mention that it's like a car, they will understand it. It's a minor difference. In a car, you get a crash test, you get an accident, you're going to have a new car in few days. In a building, you're going to not have a new city for everyone for decades. So the impact is completely different. So let's make an example with a car, but let's remember it's different. Okay, so I go fast. The code is not meant to be the target. The goal is meant to be a minimum by law. Yesterday we were exchanging some concept, and I was saying that I tend to be very direct when I'm teaching. So to my students, I'm saying, engineering students, I'm saying that the code, minimum by law, is what allows you not to go to jail. If you cannot go below that, it's minimum. So if you do the minimum by law, are you doing good design? No. You're simply protected to go to jail. But why are we allowing that? Because no one really knows what we're doing. No one really cares until when it happens, and they're going to tell the engineers told me it was meant to be an earthquake resistant. He said, yeah. And we are clarifying that earthquake resistant is not earthquake proof. Earthquake proof for people means bulletproof. Shoot me. I'm earthquake proof. Shoot me. I will be continue working the same day. People do not know that. As soon as you make it clear, then we are saying, so what should we be doing? We should be simply raising the bar. We should be designing according to this performance approach, which means repairable. We need to make something which is more on a damage control, which is repairable. How much does it take? You can design a bunker, a huge 1.5 meter thick wall for nuclear bunker is going to be your house. It's going to be too expensive. Or you can change technology. So, there you are. These are supposed to be, as I see, the minimum by law in any country which is claiming to be not underdeveloped. You see what I mean? If you're not underdeveloped, then you need to either use the base isolation, supplemental damping, bracing system, dissipative devices, or let's check that out. That is what I want to talk to you about, because I assume that you know about base isolation. So that is a rocking, is a sort of an internal isolation. Where does it come from? Fast and quick. Thank you very much to, where is Rolando Torres. I'm going to show you the minimum by law, the new car in any country which is claims to be developed. How many of you knows about this? Just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is precast concrete technology back in the 1990s, 1999, in UC San Diego. Nigel Priestley, Park and Pauline Priestley. Priestley was recruited by UC San Diego, University of California, San Diego, when he was 40 years old, and he made San Diego becoming a very famous thing. So what they were doing at the time is developing precast. You see over there, there's a post-tensioning bars. What does it mean? Ties, chain. The same thing that you're using for a bridge, you're going to bring it to a building, like you would be doing for pre-stress or post-concrete. Four walls, or for big column joints. And 26 years ago, and 26 kilograms back, that was me. I'm 2 meters tall, they did not have a good idea. Don't put this, look at the safety, that's quite a tall one. Look at the safety over there, there's no safety. They said, tell to the Italian to climb the building. So, and to do what? To take a picture. Say, but this is just because I'm Italian, so the value of my life is going to be less. I was making a joke. So it was an amazing experience. We learned a lot of things that became, excuse me, I'm trying to change it. Something happened. Okay, I'm moving it. It's coming. So this can be done in precast. And without going to the detailing, look at this, it was a monster test, the biggest large-scale test done in the United States in that time, 1999. So, what is the idea? Greek temple, rocking, being helped by a string, by an elastic rubber. It's not rubber, it's post-tensioning. So, you have the Greek temple supported by, that's why we call it controlled rocking, anyone who thinks to be competent, not in engineering only, but in construction, can learn the basics. You need to learn something, the basics, to make this happen. So you're going to find that, there's a very young myself, Nigel Priestley, Shishi Taran, and so forth. It was a big experimental test. And here I put because there's now a video that you can see on the news, sorry, on the YouTube. So this link is for you to understand, but I like to present, there was a marvelous team. Nigel Priestley, John Stanton from University of Seattle, Washington, Susan Nakaki, she was a designer in Los Angeles. Shri Sritaran, postdoc, associate professor, now full professor in Iowa. Christopher Layton, a PhD, a technician in the lab. He was the first student completing the PhD degree with the Frieder Seible. So the lab in San Diego was having technician with a PhD degree. Unbelievable. This young Italian that he was climbing up, and a colleague, a master student, Jim Collin. So beam, columns, walls, rocking, post-tensioning, you can do it tomorrow. So the challenge that we are having, and now I'm involving the architects, leader of the Cement and Concrete Association of Guatemala, we said it's going to happen because it's just a matter of developing things new. You can do it even using cast in situ concrete. It's not as powerful as, but it can be done. I recommend you to go and buy this book. It's a commemoration of Nigel Priestley by his students, and I did, like many of us, going around the world, we wanted to prepare a tribute to Nigel Priestley. So every one of us wrote a paper, and I wrote the paper about what was the press and how that pioneered by Nigel, by John Stanton and so forth, got grown up because we pick it up and we continue the work. So, traditional, that looks like a game. Under an earthquake, back and forth, you damage through the plastic hinge. We know it, but we don't know how to repair it. The new Greek temple under an earthquake is going to lift up. The more you lift up, the more the cable will be pushing you back, and then you're lifting up and then pushing back. It's like one of those giraffe toys. The toys that you're pushing and they're coming back is the same concept. So it's a recentering system by default. So what is the new way of earthquake engineering? In the 1960s, the big breakthrough was not to have soft story anymore, but allowing the building to survive. To protect people. By making the columns, the legs, bigger. That was capacity design. The famous theory of the chain, the theory of the chain of Tom Poley. The weakest link of the chain is going to be the strength of the chain. If you make the weakest link ductile, you're going to have a ductile chain. But the ductility was coming with damage. Now we're saying that ductility is not anymore equal to damage, because you have a different technology allowing you to be ductile without giving the same level of damage. Okay. So these are my students in New Zealand. We were doing laboratory teaching where they were constructing pre-70 beam column joints, pre-70 detailing, no stirrups in the joint is going to fail and kill. New code plastic hinge, and the students were constructing them to understand what was going on and testing. And the new generation, we are in 2006. An engineering student learning the ropes at university was never going to go back to that thing. He was saying, but that's easy. I can understand it. I can control it. By hand, in a half a page, I can design it. So why should I use the old version? We moved one step up. Repairability of the link. And you might not know it, but the bars, we moved the bars outside. You see that the outside bar has a fuse. Is the seismic fuse. What is the seismic fuse? You will be asked by your friends. It's the same thing of an electrical fuse. During a sparking electrical power, you're going to have some sacrificial elements, which is exactly what these guys are. These are sacrificial elements. I call them plug and play, and the reason for which I'm extremely honored, and it comes to my mind in a tiny way, and pleased to be able to speak to you, is because I decided to remain a poor academic. If I was patenting this solution, which I did not want to, I would not be here speaking with you. I would have 3 or 4 Greek islands, which I would have bought with the patents, selling the patents. But I decided to leave it for free. So, friends, colleagues, people, 15 euros. Why 15 euros? Because I didn't patent it. It's a piece of steel, fused down. I'll give you all the tricks of how to detail it. one condition. My name is Stefano. Your name is Ian. We have been given our name by our parents. So please don't change the name that I gave to this little technical device. So some people will say, why should I? Because commercially there are some people which are a little bit strange in the world who did it. Who just changed the name, pretending that they invented it, and this is extremely bad, extremely bad. So where is Orlando? Orlando, next time that you're making the slides, Priestley 1999 is low damage, Pampanin 2000 and something, plug and play, but I don't care Pampanin, plug and play, whatever. Who cares about who did it, okay? The name is going to be respected. So what does it look like? Really, we are playing with that, so you can mill a reinforcing bar, you're then putting the bar into a tube, and you're grouting or putting epoxy, so you're able to go back and forth without breaking it. And that's an experiment, and that's a test. Can you click on the bottom? Potete schiacciare? Sì, bravo, grazie. So this is really, if you think about it, it's a piece of steel which is yielding in tension. When it goes into compression that big, it cannot do anything else. After the earthquake, what do? First of all, you place it as you want. It becomes an architectural feature, becomes fashion. Earthquake engineering can be fashion. Which type of new device do you have? You are at dinner with your friends and they are looking at their big column connection and they're saying, how did you get it? You know, it's the new SSS, iPhone 5.4, viscous temper, plug and play. How did you get it? I have good friends in Japan. So, it's not a joke. We said that to architects in New Zealand, they love it. The idea of expressing all of this, I will show you. So after an earthquake, you don't need to be an earthquake engineer to change this plug and play. Like after whatever, you don't need to be an electrical engineer to go to the supermarket and change the light bulb. So in New Zealand, they started talking about, I'm Stefano, you will be able to say, it's not Esteban, it's not Stefano, but it's Stefano with the F. But the American language would call it, or the English would call it Stefano, PH. So I was Stefano. So Stefano will open a new shop, a seismic shop, located in the supermarket nearby the electrical plugs. And you're going to do the plug and play. So you're going to basically remove it and rechange it as you go. Okay, fast and quick. You're going to say, can we design it? Of course, yes. FIB recommendation, 25 years ago, New Zealand Code, 2006. Bob Park and Polly wanted to have that in the code, so I wrote with his help all the prescription, and then we prepared a design example because practicing engineers wanted to have an idea of how to do it. How tall you can go? 3.9 pisos, 39-story building in San Francisco. How's that? San Francisco, high seismic region. We did it in Italy. The interesting thing, which is absurd, we did it in Italy, and we published this building in New Zealand. In New Zealand, we got a premium, an award for best technology. Italian colleagues, they don't know. Why? Because the industry was protecting themselves. The industry was saying, why should I change? In Italy, we were doing precast with a beam on top of a corbel with a couple of rods, which is awful. Translation, very bad. So, how much does it cost to replace those two rods with a tube, a duct, and placing a chain? Nothing. So interesting enough, the whole world was aware of it, and the Italian precast industry was very conservative. Argentina, we exchanged, they studied all our work from San Diego and they did buildings. Costa Rica, fantastic stuff. Why, when I'm showing Costa Rica and Argentina and New Zealand, and then we see people are getting a different reaction. So if I'm in Italy, I show Japan, and they say, Japan. I show California. New Zealand say, listen, tell me where should we design it that you feel that it's in the same league of Italian construction. Italian construction is fantastic, but they want to say that it's too complicated. So, you have Costa Rica nearby, don't you? Oops. When the first low damage press technology, I don't have it. I don't have this light. I don't have this light. So, the challenge is work in progress, coming up soon, and you are going to do it. Because I need, in a couple of years, to increase the slide with another country which is actually embracing low damage technology. So you can find a lot of information and go fast on these buildings. These are new buildings in New Zealand that have been involved in co-design, peer reviewing. There's a young myself with Alistair Cartanack and Thornton. And these buildings is real. You go to the cafeteria and you're sitting nearby the plug and play. So you're actually getting a coffee, and the table near the plug and play is the most wanted table, because people are feeling nice to be nearby the dissipators, okay? It goes to different, you can read about that in many magazines around the world talking about this, how does it work? Then we design a hospital, which is not exactly a hospital, is an endoscopy building in Christchurch. Detailing, and something else. I have a problem. Being an academic, I publish detailing. And people say, why are you sharing your tricks? Because I'm an academic. I tell you again, if I was commercially savvy or wise, I would not be an academic. But because I'm an academic, I'm showing all the tricks. So please take them for free and use them. This is something you're doing. What is the difference? You just need to have a duct and a post-tensioning. This building went through the earthquake in Christchurch. And the building was unscathed. It went on the news. People were saying, what is this? It should have cost a lot of money. So they come to interview me, they come to interview other people, because they wanted to know how much it cost. I tell you that we saved a lot of money, but I had a confidentiality agreement. I could not say how much we saved. So anyway, to cut it short, people through television knew that there is something different they can do. So more buildings that we did in Rotorua, police station. And look at this, this is beautiful. Police station is a importance level 4 police station, but they really wanted to see the dissipators. The architects in the corridor wanted to have many dissipators. They said, listen, there's no need to have 7, 5. We can use 2. Oh, I like these dissipators. And I was really joking. But do you think that someone going in prison would be very interested to see your dissipators over there? But it was becoming fashion. Okay, Vision 2050 of Christchurch. We started rebuilding Christchurch with all low damage technology, humongous press media communication, quake resistant design. You can do, this is our version in timber, laminated timber. We develop, we patented, again, same thing is now allowed to be used. Post-tension timber called press slam. Royal Commission of Inquiry in the process with the court about Royal Commission of Inquiry, what happened. We are explaining all of that, so you can find all the information. And we prepare with the Royal Commission of Inquiry a volume about low damage building technology. So the Royal Commission of Inquiry in New Zealand is recommending to the government to, from now on, implement low damage technology. And that became viral. We started talking about that. You can find still a younger me, but we are talking about what it looks like with Gary, with Alistair, with the people who have been working on different type of buildings, and we are explaining to people what it looks like. If you have the opportunity to go to Christchurch, you will see a showroom of earthquake engineering design, base isolation with any type of device, dissipative bracing, any type of dissipative braces, rocking system in concrete, in timber, in steel. That's one of my design in steel rocking, steel with post-tensioning. Concrete timber together, so you can do whatever. The new normal is low damage. How much does it cost? Less. Whoa. So why don't you put that as a mandatory in the code? Because when you're telling people that it's costing less, there is no need to explain that you must do that. 2017, the New Zealand conference has a title, New Generation of Low Damage Buildings. At that time I was already moving slowly back to Italy. So they invite me over saying, Stefano, can you please tell us again how it started? It was beautiful. It was becoming so normal that people did not even remember anymore. So I started. No, it's not that, it is the Greek temples, you see? And then press and Nigel Priestley, and then we kept going. So they really wanted to have a little bit of history of what happened. This is one of my best, latest one. Reconstruction of the city, there are iconic new design. So we work together. It's a beautiful library. Look at this. This is the stairs, huge hall If you have a huge hole as a structural engineer, you will not be happy. The diaphragm is not working as a diaphragm. So we prepared humongous, look at the opening space, fantastic, humongous walls, post-tension walls, connected with U-shaped flexural plates, invented by Ivan Skinner in 1972. James Kelly, Professor Kelly from Berkeley, takes a boat and goes to New Zealand for a sabbatical. They work together with Ivan Skinner. Ivan Skinner invented the U-shaped flexural plate. They work together and they write a publication together. So there's been a lot of important communication between the two countries. So look at what it looks like. The idea at the end was to have a one single prefabricated element on site, tilted up. And this becomes something that you can use anywhere in the world. You can then splice it or whatever. Okay, I'll go fast, finish. You can use it for tall buildings. So the FIB bulletin will tell you about tall buildings. And we had a seminar, again, it's all material for free, use it. Go and listen to it. Multiply by, my speed of voice is a bit fast. So I'm the only one that you should not multiply by 2 the speed when you're listening to. Otherwise it would be impossible to understand. But here we were talking about tall buildings. How tall? 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. And the next step up, I want to have the dress, the non-structural element, and I'm finishing because it took a lot of time. So what is the next level up that we developed and you need to know? We want to have a low damage dress. The dress is very expensive, as you know, partitions, there are techniques to do that. We developed the whole thing. And look at this, shaking table test in New Zealand. On the skeleton, there is post-tensioning through, plug and play. So the plug and play is here. Okay? I go to the zoom, I'm zooming. Look at the Greek temple. The same plastic hinge, which would be forming cracks, now is summing all the cracks into air. There's nothing wrong breaking. And the plug and play are just doing their job. So this costs nothing. Obviously there are more detailing. Here you would have a little bit of, here you would have a little bit of protection to the cover concrete. Why we are protecting the cover concrete? Let me ask you, why did we ever accept cover concrete as a structural engineers to be spoiled, to be pushed out? Because we did not have alternative. Put a simple L-shaped steel bracket which will cost you €5, €5 or less to make it happen. So the more we go, the more we're preparing facades. These are heavy facades which typically are killing people. With a tiny detailing, they are moving like a skin around the skeleton. So a tiny detailing. And this is one of the tiny detailing so forth. Now, the reality show, I go to New Zealand, we are in San Diego, New Zealand. When I go back to Italy, people think that it's too complicated. So you start from scratch. You make a European project, huge European project. I've been leading a project in 2018 with a huge university to develop a prototype, putting concrete timber together, post-tension, and we are showing the shaking table. This earthquake is the Christchurch earthquake, which is supposed to be a collapse earthquake, collapse prevention earthquake. Is supposed to be taking down a new building, and just not happy, we were using the vertical acceleration from L'Aquila, 2009 earthquake. When you move a shaking table, 3D shaking table in Lisbon like this, you have the option on. So I was playing with to create a monster. So we get, I need to click, and we're finishing. I need to click on the bottom. So we are on this 3D shaking table with glass facades, precast concrete facades, clay bricks infill, all detailed in a low damage way. So they are not standard. Tiny modification, the famous devil is in the detail. Supposed to be coming. It's a collapse level of earthquake. There's nothing happening to the glass facade. There's nothing happening to the precast things. If people can just slide fast on the bottom, just slide faster. Yeah, just go a little bit, yeah, thank you, there you are. These are clay bricks, not constructed as we typically do, but constructed vertically like a gyps to rock. So with tiny modification of detail, your house under a collapse prevention earthquake is unscathed. How much does it cost? Less than the traditional one. You didn't know. That's exactly the point. You didn't know. Okay, so we discussed that. I go 5 slides to say, what about existing buildings? Oh, you're right. What about existing buildings? You need to prepare a national plan for retrofitting existing buildings. So here, thanks to an excellent journalist, he's inviting me to argue with the Minister Maurice Williamson of Construction, because they were saying that we are designing with the best code in the world. And I was arguing that is the minimum by law. It's the best minimum by law. So we are preparing a risk-based approach, a new code to do the assessment, and a scoring, A, B, C, D, E, like in an energy efficiency scoring. So you get a scoring of your building, and you need to raise the bar. If you are below a certain level, you need to raise the bar. This became the national plan in New Zealand, which is mandatory. What about Italy? A disaster? So in Italy, I managed, when I was going back to Italy, to bring the knowledge of the national plan that we developed. I was the New Zealand president of the Earthquake Engineering Society. And over there, you already saw that, called Sisma Bonus. We started introducing financial incentives. New Zealand, you do it, you're mandatorily, you are obliged to do it, you pay. New Zealand, Anglo-Saxon. Italy, I pay as a government, but I need to give you an incentive, otherwise it's not going to happen. So there were financial incentives, which slowly we improved by adding an economical parameter, which in our research environment is called expected annual loss, perdita annua media, is the economical cost of repairing a building, which is minimum by law designed, but is going to cost you 50% to repair the building. So the new seismic rule is take a safety coefficient, take the economical coefficient, the lower is going to give you the class. And if you're moving up by 1 class, I'm going to give you tax rebate incentives. You can do it in different ways, but the point is that I'm thinking that that could be a winning point for Guatemala. Not happy, we pushed for integrating seismic and energy. Energy efficiency is becoming, with the Green Deal from Europe, a must, so you need to do energy efficiency. So, as an engineer, we will not be able to convince people to do seismic retrofitting. This will come with money from the European government. So what we are trying to do is to introduce seismic retrofitting in the project of energy efficiency. So somehow we are taking advantage of it. And how we do it? Energy efficiency requires that you're working on the envelope. But the envelope is, from our point of view, look at this one here, is exactly what we call non-structural elements. So you're going to give me your beautiful energy efficiency dress, and the earthquake is going to break it. What a not wise investment. So if you're doing protection altogether, that would be a better one. So we prepare a project, a European project, and we are working on real case study buildings, real buildings. The novelty is now, I don't want to enter into your house. Not because I don't want to, because you don't want me to enter into your house to do seismic retrofitting. So we are working with external exoskeleton. There should be a double skin, a structural mask, structural exoskeleton, and then a facade, which is the energy efficiency contribution. And that's what we've been working with, a big European project, and we are working on from a city level to that's what you can be part of it. And I'm showing, and I'm finishing off, sorry for the patient, example of potentially intervention. So this is the Olympic Village in Rome, 1960, and we are working on, we have been proposing, it's not going to happen, we are proposing to have one of these exoskeleton, the building before, the building after. You see that there are no balconies, so the suggestion is, I will do seismic and energy and give you a free balcony. Who pays? Me, government. Why? It's so more convenient for all of us, so that I will come and do the whole thing. But I cannot oblige you. If you raise your hand and you want to be part of the scheme, and these are becoming the render of the new balconies. And so now this is a school, one of our many town medieval villages. Awful school, this school is bad, needs to be demolished. But with a little bit of intervention, look at from left-hand side to right-hand side. a full regeneration of the school. You're adding a timber-based, post-tension timber-based exoskeleton, and look at what it becomes. New balcony, new lodges, new fantastic stuff. I don't have time. It's a matter of bill. Seismic bill together with the energy bill. So who pays for the seismic intervention? The energy bill that you're saving. The energy bill will be reduced by the energy intervention. It's giving you money to do everything else. And we've been applying that to 86 schools as a project feasibility in the southern part of Italy. Okay, finishing 3 slides. 50 years later, you've been so patient. But now that's the point. 50 years later, we must do something. Not in Guatemala, everywhere. 50 years later in Guatemala, we urge a national plan for seismic risk reduction. I made a bit of a calculation of the expected annual loss. Let me say it again. What is the bill that you pay, I don't, you pay, in Italy we pay more, you pay by doing nothing. The bill is thousands of victims, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, injuries, homeless, plus 50 to 200 million US dollar a year. So by doing nothing, you're spending a huge percentage of your gross domestic product. You didn't know. So these are the numbers. Because when the earthquake comes, it's going to take that yearly base bill. So what is the plan? Long term, 7, 5, 7, 15, 30 years. I show you for, excuse me, I need to go here if it's taking. So, Italy, the investment that I was suggesting to the government is about 10, 15 billion euros. But the point is the percentage of the GDP. So in Guatemala will be 0.5% of the GDP, approximately is something that you were going to say is huge. 300 to 500 million a year? I don't have those money. Yeah, you do. You're wasting, let's say 150 a year doing nothing. 150 a year doing nothing for 10 years, for 20 years, while if you're pushing very hard with your vaccine, your seismic vaccine, you can actually get a very big result. Who's going to pay for that? Not the citizen. The government will use taxpayer money, but the government will get an alliance with reinsurance around the world. So a little bit of a private money, $50, a little bit of a public leveraging is going to make that happen. And we are finishing with the next level up of digital thing. We are working on a major project, 300 million euros of research, where we are doing high performance computing to look at the whole hazards in Italy. I'm working on the earthquake part, and we are trying to look at the full Italy, looking at every single building to try to do what? To try to do, I need your help. You need to click. The physics-based seismic shaping of different buildings, different earthquakes. If you have to, you can click. Amplification of the soil, movement of the buildings before and after retrofitting, and at the end you're going to have the full picture. Okay, you got the point. We are trying to work on these extremely sophisticated, very powerful things. To do what? I need to go, if you help me change the slide. There you are. If you can click on this. I don't know if it's working. Click on this. To look at different scenarios of different earthquakes in Italy and what will be the best strategy. I go ahead to finish. The best strategy to retrofit. So you can create a strategy national-wise to retrofit and to make it happen. At the end of the day, last slide is to create a dashboard. Just imagine that our prime ministers will be using Dungeons and Dragons, Minecraft, Fortnite type of software. It's a game. You don't need to be a prime minister to play with a game. You need to be my son. So any son will be able to play. If I tell you the rules of how you make money with the energy to then buy a new armor, you will know how to make it. And we are creating that gaming strategic for Italian country. What does it look like? Something like this. But I requested the artificial intelligence to create a Guatemala type of dashboard, and something went wrong. I'm finishing off thanking thousands of people that have been working in the earthquake, in the research in these years. So it's been quite a journey, and I wish that we continue this journey. It's about international collaboration and sharing, so I really believe that these are these situations where by getting suggestions or ideas or models, you can make it happen. I thank you again, not only for the invitation, but for the incredible patient. In Italy, we say that I owe you a coffee, so we all go for a coffee whenever. It's good to be here. Thank you very much.